Hey everybody, Kofi here. I just want to say, first of all, I'm sorry if I sound disgusting. I am under the weather. My throat's sore. My head's been hurting since yesterday. And I'm just really not feeling well. I think it's the change in the weather. But anyway, I did want to make this video because I read this article earlier today that really goes into a lot of stuff that I've been saying for a while now about the great falling away. So there is a prominent Christian blogger named Paul Maxwell. He used to write for Desiring God, which is John Piper's publication, his whole little brand. He used to write for that, and apparently he posted a video on Instagram renouncing his faith. They're saying he's no longer a Christian, and he feels joy for the first time in a long time. He feels free. It's very telling. But to me, I'm not surprised. It's a little heartbreaking, but I get it because for the longest time I've been telling you guys that this is happening. We're going to see more and more of this happening. And like he's one of many of prominent people doing this. Like in this article, it talks about musician John Steingard. I don't know who that is. And Joshua Harris, I know who he is. He wrote a book called Kiss Dating Goodbye. And that messed up the dating life of so many young Christians. And even he himself said that it was asinine, and he regrets even writing it. And he doesn't support any of the stuff that he wrote in there anymore. But the purpose of this video, though, is that I just want to encourage you guys because I'm all about authenticity. I'm all about being honest and open and transparent. But one of the things that we do as a people, as a Christian people, is there's a lot of things, like our behavior is trash. We scare people away. We are inviting. One of the things that's supposed to draw people to us, we lack, and that's love. That's love and compassion. And when people see us, they see judgment, they see hatred, they see bigotry. They don't feel welcome. And anybody in their right mind wouldn't want to get involved with Christianity on the outside looking in. If you really sat back and watched how we behaved and tore each other apart, who would want to be a part of that? That's the exact opposite of what Christ wanted for us, and wanted to establish the community he wanted to build up with us. But we continue to tear it down. And so many people for so long thought that the great falling away would be some outside influence, but no, the great falling away is going to be because of us. That's why it's called the falling away. People that were once a part of the faith are falling away. And it's not because of, oh, they're deceived. Like, no, like they were turned off. They will continue to be turned off. And there was an article that they linked here by this guy named Frank Viola. And I'm going to read some of the points in here. He gave 7 points, 7 reasons why Christians abandon the faith. And the first point is, he says, the horrible, disgusting, nasty way that Christians treat one another in person and online. Hello. Like, one prime example is during the racial conversations. Like, if you take a moment and sit and listen or watch the conversations between critical race theory and all this other stuff, it is so disgusting, guys. It is so disgusting. And when you have one group of people that are trying to be viewed as humans and respected in the eyes of society, and you have another group of people who, in so many words, are okay or would be okay if slavery still existed today, like, who wouldn't be a part of that? Like, it's crazy. And they go they'll bend over backwards to support their theories. They'll bend over backwards to support their stance. And it's ugly and it's wrong. And then you get emotions involved in it. Like, I used to get into those conversations. I talk about this a lot. I used to get into those conversations. I had to pull myself out because I found myself becoming bitter. But it's so sad because now you see these people that are supposed to be champions of faith and freedom and love are okay with bondage. It's very sad. It's very telling. Second point, he says the canned, superficial answers they have been given to complicated questions. Yes, he gave an example. I'll just start before here. An example is an 18-year-old is brought up in a Christian home. She is taught that God created the earth in 7 literal days and that the earth is young. The 18-year-old enters college and she hears the idea ripped to shreds. She is confused and finally concludes, if that's wrong, then I have to throw out everything I've been taught in the Bible. Maybe it's all a myth. The fact is, this 18-year-old has never been exposed to some of the best thinking on the subject. She's never been exposed to the sophisticated answers to modernity, to empiricism, to the problem of evil in the world, nor has she ever been taught that one can interpret Genesis a number of ways, and none of them mean doubting the authority, reliability, or inspiration of Scripture. Which is true. So, like, one of the things that I've always done when I talk to people, like, I believe that the 7 days weren't literal. That's just me. I believe that creation took undetermined amount of time. I know some people will say, well, the Hebrew language that they wrote in that talked about the time period was literal 24-hour periods. I personally, like I said, I just don't believe that it was a literal 24-hour period for many reasons. I'm not going to get into that. However, I do encourage people to sit and ponder and think on tough questions and to be able to give a defense. That's one of our primary objectives and exhortations is to be able to give a defense for why we believe in this, that, and third. But one of the things that we do is we tell people don't question, or this is how it is, and just leave it at that. It's like we give these superficial, soft answers, and then when challenges come, we don't know how to respond and or think or answer, and in turn, the only response we really give is anger, because, oh, how dare you question me, or how dare you question God. But it's more so rooted in anger with themselves because they don't know. So I've always encouraged people to understand, to know. Understanding is the principal thing. Wisdom is the principal thing. So you got to understand what you're talking about. You got to understand and know why you believe, so you can give an answer to people. And giving these little shallow answers isn't going to help. It's only going to make people frustrated. So like if you talk about rape, you talk about homosexuality, talk about all these difficult topics, you got to have a solid answer to give to people. So anyway, point number 3 says Christians abandon the faith when they see a God who didn't meet their expectations. Another thing that I talked about. Oh my God. So one of the things that I would say would be the prosperity gospel, right? Or how a preacher would get up there and say that God's going to do X, Y, and Z, and God doesn't do X, Y, Z, and the people like, so God's a liar? Are you a liar? Like, am I doing something wrong? And that's the thing too, is like, don't say God's going to definitively do something unless he specifically said he was going to do something. But too many of us lie on God, we put his name on it, and people get disappointed and upset. Like, I remember this story, I tell the story often too, where I was in church one time, and this woman, we were in Bible study, and this woman got up and was like, Pastor, I did everything you said. I tithed, I gave more, I did this, I did that, and I'm still broke. I still don't have any money. I'm this, that. Like, I follow all your principles. Like, what about me, Pastor? Like, why am I still struggling? Why am I still going through? And that was real to me, because we sell these people a dream so often, and we're not realistic. We don't tell them the truth. We just give them dreams, sell them hope. And then when their dreams aren't fulfilled, those expectations not met, hope deferred, the heart gets sick, and people become bitter and angry. So I wholeheartedly suggest that we take a more grounded and realistic approach when we're talking about God, and not, I mean, it's okay to have people, encourage people to dream and have hope and faith. But come on, man, whenever you're sitting there and you're telling people that God's gonna do all this special stuff, and you're just setting people up for failure. You're setting up people for disappointment. So don't lie on God, y'all. The fourth thing this author says is the stupidity and ignorance of so many Christians. That doesn't really need and me to expand upon, because there is so much ignorance going on. There is so much ignorance is more so not because someone's stupid. It's more so because of a lack of knowledge and a lack of wisdom and a lack of the desire to reach and go beyond our realm, right, our circles. So what I mean by that is, so many of us will be okay just going to church and listen to what the pastor says and not questioning, not researching, and we don't go and find counter arguments or counterpoints or to see another perspective. We only see it from our perspective because, I mean, honestly, I think many of us are scared to have our faith challenged. But that is probably one of the best things that could happen to us, because if your faith is challenged and you overcome that, it grows stronger. But if you are afraid to have your faith challenged, then do you have any faith at all? Think about it. Number 5, failure to live up to the gospel of legalism. The author says, I've watched Christians abandon the faith because they were taught a gospel of legalism, namely that God will be upset with them if they don't live a perfect life. Despite how hard they tried, they kept failing to keep the standard in various areas of their lives. They prayed, fasted, and sought victory over the problem with no results. Eventually, they got so weary that they concluded that it's just not worth it to follow the Lord, so they left him. I've seen this happen a lot. And people have talked to me, and I would try to avoid giving legalistic answers. I would try to be more realistic in my conversations with them. But yeah, this is real, where people, like, for instance, there's a guy that I know, and he didn't want to be gay because because of the faith. But after a while, he just stopped. I mean, he fasted, he prayed, whatever, and he just like, this is who I am, and he embraced it. And I don't fault him for it, because it's like, hey man, that's you. so, but I mean, the thing is like, we can get we can get so legalistic and tell people that you have to do a certain thing, you have to meet a certain criteria, or you have to follow or abide by a certain method or rules in order to obtain God's favor. And that's not true, but that's what we do because we're human beings and we're so used to following rules where we don't embrace grace. One of the most freeing things for me, it was when I read First John 4, I think it's 18 or whatever. It says, perfect love casts out fear, because fear has to do with judgment. That freed me, because it's like, whenever you're walking in grace and you're fearful, it's like you're not perfected in love. You're like, oh, well, he's just sitting on his throne waiting for me to screw up and hurl a lightning bolt at me. But God's grace is sufficient. It's magnificent. It's wonderful. It's freeing. And once you start to walk in that freedom, like, God's not going to punish me for every wrong thought, every wrong thing, because as we walk in his spirit, as we go and live the best that we can day by day, Christ's blood is going to cover that. That's what the sacrifice is for. But we don't walk in that because we walk in constant dread and fear. And we call it respect and reverence, but that's not. You can respect and reverence God without being fearful. I know people are like, well, you're supposed to fear God, but it's a healthy fear. It's a respect. Not like, oh my God, not like we're in an abusive relationship. And that's the type of relationship that people are with God in, that is the type of relationship people are with God in their minds and in their spirit. They're in an abusive relationship with God. And that's not what he wants from us. The 16th author says is, they love the world more than Christ. Jesus wasn't enough in their eyes to satisfy their desires, their heart's desires, or what they thought were their real desires. They loved the pleasures of sin more than the pleasures of God. Paul said of Demas, a Christian worker who had abandoned him, that he loved his present world. Yeah, that happens. I don't see this happen in my realm a lot, but I've seen it happen before. People, they want to get with God, but they do it because it's like a get out of the hell free card insurance policy. So they do it, but then like, this isn't for me. So I want to go out and do my thing and live life on my own terms. I've seen it happen. Number 7, the cares of life choke them spiritual. I'm sorry, let me slow down. The cares of this life choke the spiritual life out of them. That is so real. That is so real. That is so real. And it's just like the parable that Jesus told about the sower, where the seeds went in various places. I mean, it happens where people, they have such a passion and desire for God, but then like life just beats the hell out of them. Life just beats on them and beats on them, and they feel like they can't get ahead. And after a while, they just kind of give up. They get tired. They get defeated. So that happens too. And then these same people, they go and they try to find help, but then they get all these Christianese answers. They don't really get help, or they get turned away. So I mean, I see a lot of those things happen, but the main thing I want to tell you guys is we have to be better examples of the faith. We have to be better examples of Christ. If not, if we don't get to a place of authenticity and love and respect and strengthening our community, we're going to continue to see our numbers dwindle. You're going to continue to see people walk away. You'll see or hear people say, I love God, but I hate them. I hate Christians. I don't want anything to do with that. Or I worship God in my own way. I have my own relationship with God, and they start to mix things, right? If you are very spiritual, or you can see, if you step back, you can see the world is ripe and ready for a harvest. I said, but the harvesters, the harvesters aren't ready. There's not enough. And you have people that are trying to be harvesters, but they don't know what they're doing. They have wrong motives or whatever. And I think one of the main things we can do is just pray. Ask God to prepare us, to strengthen us, and to send the harvesters to grab these people. Because there's a long, dark road ahead. Like I keep talking about this cloud of darkness, y'all. And it's real. Like in my last video, Goshen, we need to be that realm of light, that city of refuge for people that need that. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This video was a lot longer than I anticipated or planned for it to be. So I'll catch you next time. Love you.